So far we've covered the first 2 acts of the hero's journey. The hero starts at home, the hero leaves, makes some friends, gets what they wanted, and now must head back home to face their ultimate challenge. Welcome to Act 3. Let's get this thing over with. So for the first step of Act 3, I'm actually going to throw it over to our guest for this video, Megan Tennant from Cloud Kitten Chronicles. She has a great channel and covers this step incredibly well. Chapter 8, The Road Back.
This part of the hero's journey is similar to the approach in Act 2. The hero starts to prepare for their second and final ordeal. The hero has spent time in the extraordinary world growing and learning, and now they must return back to the ordinary world to finally slay that dragon. While the story relaxes during the reward phase, this is where the story ramps back up as the hero gathers everything that they need. This step is also the crossing of the threshold back to the ordinary world. As the hero gathers what they need, they make their way back to that regular world. And note that this regular world isn't always the ordinary world of Act 1, because remember, we're dealing with metaphors here. So this threshold represents the hero crossing over to a new plane of existence after mastering the world of adventure. In the Grand Budapest Hotel, Gustav and Zero head to the Alps to get more information from Serge. After they speak to him, they encounter another Threshold Guardian, Joplin. After a brief chase and encounter with Joplin, they return to the hotel to cross their final threshold in the hopes of retrieving Boy with Apple. I'm sorry if I'm butchering those character names, I have not seen that movie in so very long. In Harry Potter, Harry and the gang search for more information on the Sorcerer's Stone. They do research in the library, they talk to Hagrid and learn about how to get past Fluffy, they get detention with Hagrid, and then they try to warn McGonagall. They then decide to retrieve the stone themselves when McGonagall won't heed their warning, which is when they encounter Fluffy, who is another prime example of a Threshold Guardian. After defeating Fluffy, the gang passes through the hatch on the way to the Sorcerer's Stone. In Alien, the remaining survivors form a plan to finally deal with the alien. They will self-destruct the Nostromo and take their chances with the ship's shuttle. Unfortunately, in making their preparations, 2 of the crew members die. Ripley is the lone survivor, master of the ordinary world, and is left to continue her adventure home.
Thank you so much, Megan. Go check her channel out and watch her video on the hero's journey. I'll link it down below. On to the next step. Chapter 9, Resurrection. In our video on Act 2, we discussed the ordeal, which is the climax of Act 2, or what I like to call
the Widow Climax.
It represents a win for the hero. Resurrection is the climax of Act 3 and the entire story, or what I like to call the big climax. This is the ultimate showdown of the story and probably the most recognizable step of the hero's journey. Protagonist fights antagonist, protagonist wins, well, most of the time.
You were the chosen one!
If you really want to tie things up neatly, you should use the things the hero learned during tests to allies and enemies to conquer their final challenge. For example, Harry Potter goes through various trials during this stage. The first requires him to lean on his Quidditch experience using a broomstick, and then the next scene he plays wizard chess like he did earlier in the movie, leading all the way to his encounter with Professor Quirrell. Quirrell?
Harry, this is Professor Quirrell. He'll be your
Quirrell. Professor Quirrell. The things your protagonist learns earlier in the story makes for great fodder for obstacles later on. It gives them the perfect chance to prove that they've learned, but be careful. This can be too on the nose. Harry Potter can get away with it because it's a movie for children, but being too obvious can lose older audiences. Oh, of course he used the broom! He used it earlier in the movie, and we saw he could use it, and then he used it at the end of the movie. It's freaking Chekhov's broom! Harry succeeds at his ultimate challenge and proves that he is, in fact, a hero. This step is named Resurrection because we often see another, usually metaphorical, death and resurrection sequence. This death and resurrection is fairly clear in Harry Potter. He dies when Voldemort's spirit passes through him, but he's resurrected when he awakes in the next scene. Harry's victory isn't just a victory for himself or his school though. This victory is a win on the road to defeating Voldemort, who wants to take over the entire wizarding world. In the Grand Budapest Hotel, this step is the heist scene where Gustav, Zero, and Agatha steal Boy with Apple from the hotel's vault. The death and resurrection moment comes when Agatha and Zero fall out of the window seemingly to their death, but the truck below saves them. Zero gives up his life to save the person he loves most and is rewarded with not only the painting, but also the secret second will that was tucked away behind it. Before, I said this victory is usually a victory for the world at large, but not in the Grand Budapest. Here, it's really only a victory for Gustav and Zero and their wallets. In Alien, this section is simple. Ripley blows up the Nostromo, has her showdown with the alien aboard the shuttle, and then blasts it into space. Alien is a horror movie, so that's all you need. The win for the world at large here is that she keeps the alien out of the hands of a corporation that wants to weaponize it. Chapter 10, Return with the Elixir. It's over. The story's done. Go home. Just kidding, we still have to get to the post-credit scene. In reality, there is some story left after the big climax. If you've ever learned about 3-act structure before, this is called the denouement, which is spelled like this. The French language is wild. This is a time where the hero and their allies can unwind after their journey. Often the hero will share whatever it is they've won during their final encounter. In Grand Budapest, Zero and Gustav get to revel in their newfound wealth. In Harry Potter, Harry celebrates with Dumbledore, Ron, and Hermione. Dumbledore destroys the stone, so Harry doesn't have an actual physical prize to share with his friends like in Grand Budapest, but stories don't need a physical prize. They all benefit from the defeat of Voldemort. In Alien, Ripley shares her victory with Jones the cat before entering cryosleep. This is also a step to wrap up any questions the audience may still have. Note that these wrap-ups may be bittersweet. The hero can't just win without paying a price. In Grand Budapest, Zero's voiceover tells us about what happened after the story, and how Gustav and Agatha would later experience premature deaths. In Harry Potter, Harry speaks with Dumbledore, who explains why his touch killed Quirrell. Dumbledore also wraps up the Sorcerer's Stone arc by saying they've destroyed it. Unfortunately, its destruction will cause the death of Nicholas Flamel, who relies on the stone for life. Every victory has its costs. And in Alien, there aren't really subplots to tie up here. The story is over and Ripley can head home. And that's it. That's all the steps of the hero's journey. And I hope I helped you understand how the different steps work. These videos are only a surface level glance though. Each step of the hero's journey has its own thoroughly documented tropes that you should learn about. I shared some excellent sources to learn more about the hero's journey in this video. The hero's journey can be a marvelous writing tool, but Joseph Campbell would argue that it resonates with us so much because it shows how change happens in real life. Leaving home and going into the unknown is a universal human experience. Whether it be moving to a new place or getting a new job, every new experience is an unexplored wilderness, and hero stories give us a path to follow. They teach us how to cope with change. Here's how Joseph Campbell put it. We have not even to risk the adventure alone, for the heroes of all time have gone before us. The labyrinth is thoroughly known. We have only to follow the thread of the hero path. And where we had thought to find an abomination, we shall find a god. And where we had thought to slay another, we shall slay ourselves. Where we had thought to travel outwards, we shall come to the center of our own existence. And where we had thought to be alone, we shall be with all the world. Thanks for watching. Hey, if you like this video, please leave us a like and subscribe. It helps us out a ton. Leave a comment if you have any questions or if you have a topic that you want to see a video on. Join the discussion on Discord and follow us on social media. Links to all of that are down below. Thanks again for watching. You're the best. This video is brought to you by Campfire Pro. Do you want to use the hero's journey to plan your story? Campfire Pro's timeline view is the perfect place to build outlines. Filling out a hero's journey timeline is a fantastic way to start telling your story. Try out Campfire Pro's 10-day free trial.